Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Boomer Life. And of course, we are back after a long, long break. We've been doing a lot of videos rather, but it's not been live streams. So yeah, I hope you don't mind that we've been taking these small breaks because there's a long cricketing season awaiting us. Because India starts playing next week, we will talk about it as well because the T20 squad is announced a few minutes ago. So we will just have a brief chat on the T20 squad before we delve further ahead into the series as well. And this is a very important life for us because we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic today. That is the spirit of cricket versus the loss of the game, and also about the World Cup qualifiers. As you all know, the two-time World Cup champions West Indies are unfortunately not going to be traveling to India for their first ever time. They're not going to be playing in a World Cup. It's funny because I was watching the 1983 movie a day before they lost to. I was just watching it, like I was fast forwarding and watching it. I was just thinking, oh my god, such a good team they had, and how people used to worry, how people used to be fearful of that team. And next day they went on to lose to Scotland, and that was just heartbreaking, to be very honest. And ICC made a very good edit as well. How Scotland was knocked out because of rain, and then Scotland took the revenge against West Indies. So these were things which happened across cricket world over the last 1 week or so. But we're going to be starting to talk about the spirit of cricket versus the loss of the game, and about Ashes to start out with. Sandeep Bunny, how have you been following the Ashes? We have to say this is almost like 2005, but not quite the results because Australia have taken a dominant 2-0 lead there.
Yeah, I think the quality of the matches has been great, and I think both the teams have been very competitive. I did not expect this England team with the baseball approach to give this massive mammoth Australian side a run for their money. But this England team has always been resilient. We have seen that they can sometimes go on to lose to West Indies in a home series, and then bounce back and go on to defeat Australia at their home, or even for that matter, even put up a strong fight in away matches as well. Talking about the games, I think two brilliant games. The first one, Australia were on the edge, and then Pat Cummins, Nathan Lyon stitched up that partnership and took them home. Second test, another game where Steven Smith once again showed why he is one of the best test batters of this generation, scoring that century and putting up a great platform along with Travis Head. At one point, it looked like Australia are going to have it easy with close to 500 runs on the board in the first innings. But then again, England clawed their way back into the game, and then Ben Stokes was about to pull off another 2019 highest. And at one point, with 17, he did with 4 wickets in hand and no Nathan Lyon in that team. Things could have been very tricky, but Australia held their nerves. The Pacers held their nerves. Pat Cummins, Mitchell Stark, Josh Hazelwood for one did the job for once. And I
Yeah,
think, but right now, I think even though Australia are 2-0 ahead, Nathan Lyon is going to be a huge miss for Australia going forward. And I
absolutely.
think that is where England have the chance to claw back.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point which you put up because at the start of the series, at least a lot of people really felt like basketball is going to really show what they are all about. They might just run over Australian team because there are a lot of weakness in the Australian team as well if you look at it. But ultimately it shows if you are not going to respect Test cricket and trying to be very reckless, it can come to haunt you back very quickly and can catch up with you. What do you reckon about that, Jenan? Because it's a funny old game, isn't it? How often have you said? Test cricket is meant to be played in a certain way, and if you're trying to change it, at least in Test cricket, you won't be able to do it because the sustainability model of anything in Test cricket is not a durable thing, especially something like baseball. Now, the bunch of players who are playing basketball because they are technically not very gifted, nor are they, nor do they have any other option to survive on any wickets. So they only have one way to go about it, that is to hit their way out. And moments you stop the boundary ball, then they have no other plan B, and that's how they've been exposed over the last two Test matches.
I think even for me, what has really gone wrong for them is also the fact that these. I mean, it's also the fact that they have really gone away from their strength that is that has been their bowling in England, isn't it? The kind of pitches that they produced in England are no more the kind of pitches you see in this Ashes series or any series that's been happening in England. So now, not just the fact that their batters have struggled against a very good Australian bowling attack, but also what is now happening is that English bowling attack has lost its teeth. Jimmy Anderson's struggled, and I genuinely don't think it's about the age factor with Jimmy Anderson because he's been doing well at that age for a long time. It's just that the pitches are no more Jimmy Anderson sort of pitches. They are the pitches that Mitchell Stark, Josh Hazelwood, or even someone like Scott Boland love bowling in. I mean, they've all grown up in those kind of pitches. But
Yeah.
that's where that factor has also gone out. Now all of a sudden, I think there was a term that was used by Jared Kimber in this piece, which was it's called military medium militia. It's That's basically what it is. Now they don't have the pace to trouble the Australian batters. They're bowling at 130 to 140, especially someone like Ollie Robinson, who's gotten a lot of flack as well. So when that happens, now the ball isn't moving around, and when the ball doesn't move around at that pace, you need to be bowling at least 10 kilometers faster to trouble the batters a little bit. And Australian batters, except for maybe Manas Labuschagne, have looked completely comfortable on that pitch. Even someone like David Warner, right, who struggled in England throughout his career, hasn't looked like himself in the past few innings,
Yeah.
because it's so easy to play on England, and it's so easy to play in England. And the only time it's become tough is if the overcast conditions have helped English bowlers. But aside from that, it's been that difficult. And as you mentioned, English batters, they don't have the kind of technique, and that's the reason
Yeah.
why they're struggling. Only Joe Root is the one I feel, and maybe Ben Stokes, obviously,
Yeah.
are the two batters who are able to do any damage. But aside from them, else has looked at sea.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on that. And that's where I think at times you always question the sustainability factor, but at the same time, now it's the most biggest test for them because they've never been put under the pump for two consecutive test matches. Of course, they did lose one odd test match against South Africa, against New Zealand, but now they've lost two back-to-back test matches, and that too in a high-profile season against the World Test champions. The question marks are there. The media is definitely putting them under a load of pressure. It is about now how they can come back into it. If they can come back, fighting it out, winning the match and heading in leads, that's going to be massive for them. If not, if they're going to lose the series in the game starting tomorrow, then the question marks are going to be there. People are going to be talking about certain batters. Of course, Oli Pop is already out of the team, which means Dan Lawrence might be the player who will come in his place. I don't know. The team is not announced yet, but yeah, it could possibly be Dan Lawrence who's going to be coming in for Oli Pope in number 3. And about the openers as well, Zach Crawley looks absolutely out of place. He's trying to get his way out, but he looks good, but most of his shots are out of control. But Ben Duckett has been good. Joe Root, of course, has done a good job. Ben Stokes played a valiant knock, and you have to admit that what Ben Stokes did is what Ben Stokes always does in these situations. But let's talk about that big moment in that game. Of course, everybody wants to talk about it. It is none other than that Bairstow dismissal because the spirit of the cricket is again in discussion after a while. Last time it was in discussion was during those run out and non-strikers end and whatnot was happening during that time. But finally, it's back in discussion again. So it's about time we talk about it. What do you guys make of it? Especially money. Of course, we like to follow the rules of the game, but it's done by these MCC members and themselves. They made the laws of the game, but they also talk about spirit of the game. So how are they going to balance it out?
Yeah, I think it was. I would have done the same because if you look at the replays, you will see that Alex Carey just threw the ball in one motion. He just took the ball and just threw it.
Yeah,
And Johnny Bairstow, it was just careless from him because even if you just let a ball go, it is your, instinctive. Instinctively you tend to look backwards and see where the ball has gone. So he did not do that. He did not look at the keeper. He just went for a stroll. And I think if you think that cricket is that easy that you can just duck a ball and go for a stroll, I think you deserve to be
yeah,
back in the shed. So and I think the spirit of the game and everything. With the catch as well. Mitchell Stark took a catch, completely grounded it, and finally it was good to see the third umpire give it not out. Because even if
mhm,
you have control of the ball and then you just slide the ball on the ground, it should be not out. It should have been not out for Shubman Gill. It should have been
yeah,
not out for Joe Root. Finally, it was not out when Mitchell Stark took that catch. So finally, happy that one favor went in, like in one decision went in England's favor that way. But I think in the same line, Johnny Bairstow absolutely should have been out because you can't afford to go on for a stroll in the middle of a game when the ball is on play.
yeah. Absolutely, I agree with you totally on that because it's something which everybody has got a very different opinion on that. Now, another school of thought really thinks Johnny Best did not have anything to achieve out of that particular movement which he did going forward. Now, if you're talking about stealing a run, of course, or when you talk about run out and non-strikers, then there's particular edition of you getting something out of it. You're getting some advantage out of it, which is basically making sure you run lesser. Or when you talk about runouts as well, if Johnny Bairstow tried to run to the opposition end, okay, you would have gotten one run. But here in this particular scenario, the other school of thought really thinks Johnny Bairstow did not have to do anything much. He was just trying to move ahead because it was end of the over, and them trying to do it, yeah, was definitely within loss of the game. But was there any need of doing it? Of course, you will go on to win, but that just against it's anti-sportsman is the other school of thought in this. Before I come to my conclusion, but I like to know what do you reckon about this?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going through the laws of the game, and I think it's Rule 20, 20.1.1, which talks about when the ball is dead. And it says, when it is finally settled in the hands of the wicketkeeper or the bowler. And in that case, in the particular instance of Johnny Bairstow, not to sound like an advocate at this point in time, but Johnny Bairstow, I mean, I think as a batter, right? It's important that you ensure that the ball is settled in the keeper's hands. That is most likely when the keeper either passes it on to the one of the slips,
Yeah,
or passes it back to the bowler, or or Alex Carey himself takes the ball and starts, I don't know, rubbing it on. I mean, trying to get the Chinese side going, or giving it to someone else. I mean, any of that. But what Johnny Bairstow did was very casual. As Sandipani said, he let the ball go through, and then without a second look, just started walking onto the pitch to do agriculture. Try and see how the pitch is doing.
yeah,
And that's where the ball became dead only when he was dismissed. So I mean, as you mentioned, right? While I agree with you, the fact that that school of thought, they mentioned that, yeah, Johnny Bairstow didn't have much to do, any advantage to do with it. But what happens if I am just me as a batter plays the ball and just stands outside the crease, regardless of where the ball is? I think that is not something that should be permitted, because the crease is drawn for a reason. The batter is supposed to stay in it, and I think many a times you look at spirit of the game, and the batters have been using it as an excuse for way too long. If you look at what spirit of the game is, right? If you look at the the start of it, it is when something called gentleman was there in cricket. And gentleman in cricket is not gentleman in English, guys, by the way. Gentleman in cricket
yeah,
meant the nobles, the richer class who played cricket. There was always gentlemen versus players, and players were the
hmm,
ones who were middle class or working class, who would more
yeah,
predominantly be bowlers. And spirit of the game was
hmm,
something that was invented then. But in today's modern world, what really is spirit of the game? I mean, I might consider something to be spirit of the game, Abel. You might consider
yeah,
something to be spirit of the game. It is
yeah. I agree with
very,
you.
very vague. The only thing that is
Hmm,
not vague is what is written. That is the laws of the game. And you rightly said,
yeah,
MCC, it happening in Lords is, I think, one of the biggest, most hilarious things in cricket, because MCC, the ones who booed the Australian cricketers, could have written a rule, right? That once the ball is passed through, you've got 10 seconds after which the ball is dead,
yeah,
or some time limit, or the wicket keeper has to, or the batter has to make sure something, which could have been more specific. But from what I
hmm.
can read in the laws, according to my interpretation, I think Johnny Bairstow deserved to be out at that stage. And
Yeah, it deserved to be
Pat
out,
Cummins
and
didn't
I
come on
totally agree
and
with
say
you on that as well. Because
I think Pat
if
Cummins
I would
didn't
have
come
learned
on
that
and
if my
say,
under
but did
10
he,
or
that
under 14 coach
Johnny
would have
Bairstow has
seen
been
it,
doing this for so long? Yeah,
yeah,
Johnny Bairstow has been doing this for so long. He's not the first time that they've seen him do this. He's been doing it for so long, and it's not just the
yeah,
Australian cricketers that said this. People who played county with him say that he loves, once the ball is balled, he sometimes just roll out like that, mindlessly,
yeah.
I would add.
Yeah, I think that the word is mindless or brain fade, because yes, you
Yeah.
have a natural tendency to just walk down the pitch after every ball. A lot of batters do that across the world. We often don't notice it. Now this incident has happened. Now people start giving attention to detail a lot more in terms of who
I mean,
walks out of the crease.
you did see Stuart Broad, who entered after, I think, a couple of wickets after Johnny Bairstow. Every single time he wanted to stroll out of the pitch, he marked the bat, looked at the keeper, looked at Steve Smith, and looked at the slip cordon. He said, all right, can I move out?"
Yeah, I mean
I
that's
think
the way to go
Stuart
And
about
Broad
it. I
just
mean
walked
I don't
out
mind saying that.
after Bairstow got out. I think he walked in at number eight,
Bairstow.
right
Yeah,
after
correct,
that.
correct.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's not a bad thing to do. And I'll show you one of the other incidents which happened in 2016 World Cup final, under 19 World Cup final, when Rishabh Pant was caught stumped by I know who the keeper was. Alzari Joseph was a bowler, and it was in the World Cup final where Rishabh Pant decided to walk out, and he did not even realize he was out of the wicket, and he was caught stumped. He literally was stumped in the final of the World Cup, and it's a very similar incident as well to what happened with Bairstow.
And
And
this
at
is
that
why
time,
I like the ICC sort of putting on the dismissal as stumped and not run out. They initially had given it as run out, but this
yeah,
should be stumped because the keeper, it was just in one motion. He just took the ball and just threw it. And
exactly.
you can only be
Yeah.
careless enough to miss the ground. And a dismissal that comes to my mind is not something similar, but Virendra Sehwag casually strolling in and getting out, where Kumar Sangakkara had that a moment where he took the ball and just threw it in the non-striker's end, and he was
Mhm.
just strolling in, outside the crease, and that is
Absolutely.
something you
I
can't
mean,
do. You
I'll
should
give you
be on
another
the game. You should
instance,
be in the
Sonny,
moment.
now that you reminded me. I'll give you another instance now that you remind me. This is a very, very good one. It was, I think it was, I don't remember the test match or the year, but it was Sri Lanka versus New Zealand. And Muthai Muralidharan was the last batter who was batting. Sangakkara had just scored a double century. Muthai Muralidharan goes out to shake the hands of
Yeah.
Sangakkara, his mate, celebrate the fact that he scored a
Mm.
200. And guess who? Baz McCullum goes out, collects the ball, throws it onto the stumps, and he's declared out. And it takes Brendan McCullum, I think, half a decade to apologize, which I don't know why he did. But okay, fair enough. I think you can. I think he probably apologized, thinking that if he has to be the coach of an English team in another 5 6 years, he would be able to stand on some moral ground.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, it doesn't matter at this point of stage. I think laws of the game obviously prevails over spirit of the game. I mean, spirit of the game is just there to possibly act as a wheel for
But
a lot of these incidents.
spirit
And
of the
every
game
time you're on the
is
receiving
the
end,
loss
you
of the
try to
game,
bring the spirit of the
isn't it?
game. Sorry.
Spirit of the game should be the loss of the game. What
No,
else?
I
What
think
more are
I
you
think
adding to it?
spirit of the game is such a, you can say at times it
I think
does
spirit
work.
of the game is very vague, and
It's very
I
vague. Yeah,
totally agree with
exactly.
Ashwin on how he takes on spirit of the game. It's just a code, I am code which you can follow, which you, if you don't want, you don't have to follow it. It's not a
No,
hard
I
and
think
fast rule
spirit
that you
of
have
the
to follow.
game. I'll tell you what exactly is spirit of the game. Now, for example, now what happened in 2011 to an extent can be spirit of the game because when Ian Bell really thought it was lunch and he walked off, it was spirit of the game for a lot of reasons because
I don't know about that as well,
even
Abel.
it
I
was
mean, I'm a
the
big
lunch was declared by the umpire and that's when he started walking off and the ball was almost out there in the boundary. So at that point, if you look at the entire
ah.
incident, it was spirit of the game. Now I'll give another very very good
But even
incident was
there,
when
Abel, I'll add to it, right? Even there, right? It was just Dhoni who did it out of the own goodness of his own art. Because I was just looking at the laws, and
Yeah,
again,
I'll
one
tell
of
you
the
another
ways
incident
a
as well.
ball can be
Another
dead.
spirit of the game incident
Yeah,
is
I mean,
I think it was
one of the ways
Nepal
a
who was
ball can be
playing.
dead, Abel, is yeah, I mean, one of the ways a ball can be dead is when the boundary is scored. And in that case,
Yeah.
the boundary wasn't scored, it was pulled back in by the baller, by the fielder, which means the ball wasn't dead. It was just Dhoni who felt like that was
No,
not the
why I
right
say that
way
was
to
spirit of
get
the
something
game again was
dismissed.
umpire called it lunch and he had asked umpire's permission to walk out. Now that's where the appeal came out and it was
Yeah,
basically a
fair enough.
But
misunderstanding.
I
That's where
think,
spirit of the game came
Abel,
in.
to put it, I think England have been on the. I mean, they have delivered this punishment on various teams, because now that I remember, Grant Elliott from New Zealand was out this way when Paul Collingwood was the captain in one of the T20I games. He just
Yeah.
walked out casually, and the wicketkeeper just took the bails off, and he was given out. And Paul Collingwood stayed. I mean, he decided to stay with the decision of not withdrawing the appeal. He did not withdraw the appeal. Grant Elliott had to work back, and that caused a lot of bad blood in that series between England and New Zealand. So I
Yeah.
think England have done this on various occasions to not cry themselves, because they have
Mhm.
no right to cry on a
Yeah,
decision that
yeah, I
went
agree
against
with
them
you.
for the first
I mean,
time.
I don't think it's them, the player. I mean, some of the players are crying, but more than that, it's the media who has made a lot of things about it. A lot of hue and cries
I
from
mean,
the
you have to
media.
blame, you have to put a reasoning on their loss, right? They are
Yeah,
consistently losing against Australia in a home
yeah,
ashes, and the
yeah.
reporters are going to be at their necks.
I think
So
Absolutely. I
anything
think.
that
overall
they can hold
Ashes,
on, they'll take it.
past few years, the
Yeah.
Ashes has been going the English way as well. People expected this year, at least I think the English fans expected that Bashball will bring a change, but it is not. But I still won't see that 2-0 as a definitive way of how the series has gone, because England has played good cricket. It's just been that they have not seized moments like happened with Bairstow. I think you go back to the first test, right, where Pat Cummins and Nathan Lyon strung a partnership together. I think in the last game again, that was what was lacking for England. They kind of went casual, especially. I mean, Ben Stokes played a great knock.
Mhm.
Don't get me wrong, but I just felt like when Australia had put all the fielders back, it wouldn't have been a bad idea to start taking singles, force something of Pat Cummins. because I understand, I am all for basketball. I still think basketball is a great way for teams to go for, because it's exciting cricket, and it's really brought back life into Test cricket. But
And also,
it's
I think I'll
also
agree
about
to
where
that
you
because
don't
Stuart
cross
Broad
the
was
line
settled
to
in the other
reckless
end.
play. Yeah, I think it's about not crossing the line, right? The moment you cross the line into recklessness, doesn't matter who you are, what you are, however legend of a game you are, you are gonna make mistakes, because that's what recklessness essentially is. And I just felt like
I
England got
personally think it's
reckless
not
in that
reckless.
session.
It's just that their ability to play a certain way has been shown.
Yeah, but
I mean, they are
even you
so well
see,
designed to
even
play only a
yesterday,
certain way.
even in
I
the
mean, what
fight,
is positive
even both
cricket?
the
I mean,
test matches,
I'm
right?
talking about basketball working in pitches which turn and pitches which just see movement. I don't think they can
Yeah,
sustain
of
there
course, of course, of
because
course.
their shots. I mean,
I
most
think
of,
on
for example,
bowler
Ben
friendly
Duckett
wickets,
plays a
yeah.
lot of good cover drives. It looks good on flatter surfaces, but can he go out there and commit himself to play a cover drive on a pitch which moves a lot? And that's where these people will be exposed a lot more. For example, in Oli Pop getting out in a similar manner since 2020, when the ball comes into him, that's clearly shown. Once the ball starts moving, Oli Pop is nowhere. Joe Root, for that example, can be exposed quite a lot on pitches which moves a lot. Or Joe Root looks very good. If you look, uh, Joe Root scored a lot of hundreds, but most of his hundreds have come at home. He scored 17 hundreds at home out of 30. Now, can you call him? Nobody calls him a home track bully because he's from England. Now, if it was Virat Kohli or Rohit Sharma, people would have called him a home track bully. Now, if you look at Joe Root's record in Australia or anywhere else in the world, it's pathetic for that matter. And it's very, very mediocre for the matter. I won't say you can't call him greater than Steve Smith for simple reasons. Steve
Of
Smith has
course not, of course.
everywhere across the world. He scored runs and he's got that number one batter's tag for a reason. Joe Root has scored a lot of hundreds in England on conditions which really suits him. 17 hundreds out of 29, 30 hundreds. That's a lot of hundreds. That's more than 50%. And that's where Steve Smith, Virat Kohli, Kane Williams stands are because they scored a lot of hundreds away from home. Now, that's about it from the spirit of the game discussion ashes. Finally, before we end the live, thoughts on World Cup qualifiers. I know a lot of people would not have catched it up as well, but Sri Lanka and Scotland are going to make it to India, most likely because Netherlands, they'd have to really win by a margin of close to 300 odd runs to make it to the World Cup. Number two, mostly it's going to be Scotland and Sri Lanka, and deservingly so as well.
No,
What do
I
you guys
think
think
it's not
about
that
it?
it's not that a huge margin that Netherlands will have to win by. I think anything in anything exceeding 80 to 100 runs will do the
No,
job
no,
for
no.
them.
It is 250 odd from what I read today because they are in
Hmm.
minus
Hmm.
four, and the
They are
other
on
two
minus
teams are
0.04. They are on minus
yeah.
0.4 or something, and they are on plus 2.96 or 2.9 something. So I think that should cover 100, odd runs would cover the difference. But yeah, I think we'll still have to see. But also, there is a danger of, I mean, a very slight chance of Scotland losing by a particular margin to Netherlands and Zimbabwe. No, I think Zimbabwe are lesser on
Zimbabwe are
that
out.
point table. Yeah. Zimbabwe
Zimbabwe
are
are
out.
out.
But I would have definitely liked to see Zimbabwe making it to India because of the teams that I've seen in the qualifiers, I think Zimbabwe showed great promise.
Yeah,
And so did Scotland, Netherlands, and Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka have
yeah,
already made it through. But
yeah.
Scotland and Netherlands, I think Zimbabwe, unless they messed up, what really went wrong for them is the game against Sri Lanka because I think that totally hampered their confidence because they were unbeaten till then and then they went on to lose against Scotland in another easy game by a huge margin, which was not acceptable. But other than that, I think it will be good to see. It would have been good to see Zimbabwe play in India, but I would be happy to see either of Scotland and Netherlands from whatever I've seen in the qualifiers because both the teams look really solid. And on any given day, you can expect an upset, and I wouldn't even call it an upset because it's the top 10 teams of the world
Yeah,
playing each other. So
yeah, true.
you never know. They can come in. Netherlands or Scotland can come in and pull one up against Pakistan if they decide to travel to
Oh,
India.
uh, hi Pakistan. I mean, that's pretty. But any team, let's not pick out on any teams. But yeah, Pakistan,
Mm,
they've
yeah.
got this habit of losing as well. That's why I think we're not taking any comments before we end the live. We'll take few comments as well before we just finish it up because that won't be fair on the people who have commented. Hi guys, how are you guys doing? Yeah, we're doing good. We're doing good. Good to see you all back. Yeah, we're glad we're back. Saw you guys on Almighty Blues channel for the last games. Yeah, we did go for the game last evening.
We,
It was
we
1-1 of
were, we were,
Australia.
yeah.
So you might have
I
seen us
mean,
there.
I think as an Indian fan, it's great to see some sport we are lifting trophies, and it was some match, and the players, they just, I mean, you could feel, that the players loved the support that we gave them, and it
Yeah,
was really beautiful to see that happen in
yeah,
front of our own eyes as well. Yeah.
yeah.
And that's
I
the
mean,
reason why I
if
think
you are in
answering that
Bangalore,
question, you're feeling really
you
happy
know,
because of that.
sorry.
I'm saying Priyanka just asked us, right? Good to see you all back. Someone asked us, oh yeah, Saloni asked us how we are all doing. I think me and Abel are pretty much over the roof because of what we
Yeah,
saw
but yeah,
yesterday.
pretty tough, pretty. It's pretty drenching as well in terms of travel and everything.
Of
So
course.
yeah, but I would say it's fun to see your team do well. And being an RCB fan, I'll tell you, if you're in Bangalore, Chinnaswamy is a great crowd, but never miss out West Block Blues in Kantirawa, because that's top-notch crowd you will get.
Yes.
It's one of the best you'll get in the country, and that's why we are the best football club in the country for a reason. We win trophies, unlike our brothers in
Sure.
RCB. But yeah, nonetheless, hoping to travel to India for India versus Pakistan. Of course, we are looking forward to host you in India. If you are traveling to India, it'll be
Shinwari, we
great.
would love to have you in India, but I'm not sure whether the Pakistan team is going to travel to India in the first
Either
place.
ways, travel to India to watch the World Cup. We'll
Yeah,
host. There's some
anyway, you
really
can
good
just
food.
travel to
If you
watch
travel to
watch
Ahmedabad,
Afghanistan. Yeah.
go down to Ahmedabad. Do not forget to try the street food. It's really good out there, and it's some really good
Wow.
stuff which you can see. And even sightseeing is pretty good in Ahmedabad. Or if you plan to travel to Bangalore, the weather, the food, everything, you're gonna pretty much love it. Or anywhere else in the country as well. I think Pakistan will be playing a lot of matches in Bangalore, so I think you will have plans to travel to
Yeah.
Bangalore as well. So do not forget to try out our do get in touch with us as well. We can possibly do a meet and greet. If you're traveling to India, we'll definitely do a fan meetup or something like that in a match. We'll plan everything out, guys, in the coming months. There are a couple of months to go, or 3 or 4 months to go around. Exactly 4 months to go for that particular game. So let's see how things go in the next few months. Thank you guys for joining. That's about it from tonight's discussion. It's pretty short, and we want to keep it short because we'll be coming back tomorrow again, mostly for the Ashes first day review. Now we are planning to do a daily review of days play from tomorrow onwards, most likely, and hopefully on the 10th at least we'll try to come talk about India's squads. As you all know, India's squad is announced. There's some pretty interesting names out there. Mukesh Kumar makes the T20 squad. Sandeep Bani's favorite bowler in T20 format. And to talk about that, Avesh Khan makes it to the T20 team. Umar Malik makes a T20 team. Surprising, maybe because of his IPL performance. Tilak Verma, a deserving call up. Ruturaj is
Yeah.
dropped. Ishan Kishan gets a nod in T20 after all his 110 strike rate performances and him not able to connect one ball in T20 format anywhere he has played after averaging 14 for India in T20 in the last 15 matches. Ishan Kishan is your number one keeper. Sanju Samson has finally made the T20 squad. Selectors are growing up. Ajit Agarkar, I'm really happy for you. Uh, Other than that, pretty much that's it. It's the same old selection conundrum. I don't think Ajit Agarkar really makes any
I think
difference.
out
People
of
are pretty
all
confused.
people, my favorite has to be Avesh Khan. We've selected him for his finishing
No, it's
abilities.
Mukesh
So
Kumar.
whenever India
Undoubtedly,
needs
it's
one
Mukesh
of
Kumar.
one ball, no, it has to
Avesh
be
Khan still
Avesh.
had a decent IPL towards the latter end. Now you talk about Mukesh Kumar in T20 format. I'll have to agree with Sandeepani here. He doesn't deserve an India call up. Let's talk about that. You're telling me that you're telling me that Tushar Deshpande or Akash Singh or let it be any other bowler who had a very decent IPL, Mohit
And
Sharma for
I'm
that
I'm
matter.
also scared for an Umran Malik going on to
Mohit
play
Sharma.
in West Indies because I don't want him to be treated like an Ocean Thomas, a bowler with no line and length, just coming in, bowling at 150 and traveling at
Yeah.
160. So
Yeah, so
that is never a good
let's hope
sight when you're
things go
bowling at
well.
150 and you're
But I'm
traveling at
happy for
160.
Yashasvi as well. I'm very happy for Yashasvi gets a
Yeah.
T20
Yeah.
call up. I think Shubman and Yashasvi will be our future who's going to open the batting. That's about it. Thank you for watching this live. If you did like this live, do not forget to share and subscribe to our channel. And do not forget to check out our premium contest with Boomer 11. And we're conducting a raffle draw as well. Do check out our Instagram page for all the latest updates. The link is there in the description below. And check out our fantasy contest if you are an ardent fantasy follower. Remember, the cricket season is ongoing. Football season starts in a month from now. So we are back and running once again on Boomer 11. Boomer Live is going to be there. And check out our other videos, which we are going to be posting on the channel as well. Thank you for watching this. See you all very soon. Bye bye. Take care.
Good night,
Bye
guys.
bye.